Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chima Ikegwono. I used to be an instrumentalist, an artist, but fundamentally, I've had my training in the university as an architect. So, why is it that as a Nigerian, I know that I do not have a future? I can say this because I know that I lack the support that I need to build the future of my dreams, if there is anything like that. Before gaining admission into the university, I have had some exposure to life, as it were. After my secondary school, I lived in the society for some time. Before I gained admission into the university, I knew that I cannot expect to get a job after studies. So while going into the university, it was clear to me that I need to be the one to provide the job. So fundamentally, already that makes me an entrepreneur because I had to create job, right? I had to do something, add value, so that I can be an employer myself. So while as an undergraduate, I used to play the violin. I could say I was good. I formed a quartet, a string quartet. We were four violin, two violins, one cello, one viola. So we had this quartet, and we did quite well. We were going for performances, going for shows. In fact, one at the peak of our career, our early beginning, we performed at a very exclusive dinner event in the States. So that's just to say at least we had a fair time in terms of skill for the instrument. So, and we put in some effort. So, as an undergraduate, I had a quartet I put together. I was an artist. I used to make portraits and sell them for different people in the space in that university environment. And then I was also teaching the violin to some undergraduate students because UNIZIC have the medical side. So I used to go to that side to teach some undergraduates the violin, how to play, both how to read the score sheet and how to play the instrument. So um, then I was an architecture student. If you're an architecture student, you know that if you don't do your work, you are just not going to make it. So I combine all this while studying. Then, most importantly, I used to make some crafts. I used to make because I how that started was that I decided that I wanted an interesting clock in my room. So I decided that the clock needs to be transparent. So I made a transparent clock. Fundamentally, that's just glass. So I made this clock. I had it on my wall, and I thought it was beautiful. So I said, wait, oh, this clock that I'm looking at, I think it's a better gift. Assuming, we used to go for events, burial, wedding, birthdays, they give you maybe a plate, a cup, customized. I thought that this clock would be a better gift compared to the plates and cups. At least it will come to a more celebrated space, maybe your living room, instead of the kitchen where the plates and cups go. So because of that, I thought that I have to exploit or explore this opportunity. So I formed at least a few of my friends came together. They were also interested. So together we built this business where we customize, students and young love. Everybody wants some fantastic gift for their spouses or partners. So we built this business around that clock, and it was growing. We were selling, we were making profits, and even went into making awards, very interesting awards and stuffs like that. So in doing this business, I used to go to Onitsha. In Onitsha, you see, I go there for my raw materials, which is the clock engine, the glass, and then other components that I use to customize the clock. So in doing this business, I noticed that I was using a lot of glass. As an architecture student, definitely there's no house you can build without reinforcement, which is the steel rods that you buy. So I was very interested to see that the consumption of glass in my space as a craft maker, even in buildings, windows, name it, there are several uses for glass, everyday uses. So I use glass. We use steel in construction. And then I used to see all these iron benders along the road that do gates, welders, they do different kind of iron works under the sun. So for me, I felt that that was an opportunity there in all these things that I'm doing. So along the line, towards my final year, we had to do this project defense. So the project that I was working on happened to be a project that made me think about a city. So I was like, wait, oh, if we can if we can make an industry that produces glass, because those suppliers I used to buy from, they used to tell me that they get their glass, they import it, but one of them told me that they get it from Edo State, that there was a new company there that is producing glass. So I said, wait, oh, if we produce the glass, already I have personal use for that glass that I'm selling. I also know other uses. If we can bring a company that produces glass, bring a company that produces this iron rod, then we can build a city around this. So these two industry, for example, that at least I know first-hand use, that if I had this rod now, Mr. A, Mr. B will need it to build this house. Fine. So I came up with an idea for a self-sustainable city that will be working within this glass iron work. And then the idea was such that those fine, let me not bore you, long story, let me make it short. So fine, I graduated from the university 2-1. At least in terms of GPA, I was the second in the class. I'm saying this just so that you're able to assess me and why what I'm saying may be correct, because it's subject to your own maybe experiences too. So now, when I graduated, I'd already been priming myself to make something for myself and also get others involved. I went for service, which I did not want to go for because I thought that that would be a waste of time, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to get a job. But I had to go because that's what we owe our country. So I went for service. So in the orientation camp, I found out that during Said, that with my NYC certificate, I do not need a land, I do not need a car, I don't need a house. Just with the certificate, I can get a loan from the bank. I say, fantastic. Finally, this service is going to worth something. So at the end of the service year, enthusiastic young man, I came back home, went to my bank. My bank referred me because I told them what I was told in camp. This is just me as one more Nigerian trying to do what they can do to make something for themselves and for their society. So I went to CBN. When I went to CBN, they told me what they told me. So, but at the end of the day, the summary is that I could not use my certificate to get a loan. Coincidentally, I actually know someone that ended up using their certificate. Till today, they did not get back their certificate and they did not get the loan. So that's one side. So let's leave that alone. Now, towards that my final year, when I came up with the idea for a self-sustainable city, because I have to go from what I have lived and what I've tried to do. So let's leave all other possibilities and focus with this. So based on my own experiences and what I could see and what I thought I could do, I had an event where I needed to make a pitch for this self-sustainable city, and the driving factors where the money or the key component around which the city will be built, which is the glass processing plant or production plant, the steel manufacturing plant. These two factors coming together, we can create a city. Because even as at that time, if you go, my university is Unizik as at 2012 and Unizik today, it's a totally different place because there's so much growth and development, and the major driving force for that development is the university itself. So because the university is there, we used to live at the temporary site. So since there was the need for students to move to the permanent site, a lot of hostels grew around the university itself. So many students moved towards that side so that they cut down cost of transportation and are almost there in school all the time. So because of that need for people to be there, you see that a lot of hostels grew up around that side. Then those hostels means there is need for market, there is need for other support services, waste, energy, food, which is a market. All those services were needed. So because of that need, over the time, just 10 years, if you go to that space, it's incredible the development that has happened. Very violent, maybe town or seat space in the States. So I made my pitch. Some influential people in the society were in that space, and they took interest in what I proposed, and they invited me over for mentorship. So the mentorship, they threw a question for me that my program was lacking economic value, which to my own understanding, I thought that the economic value was that we are producing glass, we are producing steel, and we sell that and make money. And with that money, we can power the city, whatever. So I had to come back home to try and understand what he means by there is no economic value. So I called a group of friends, architecture students too, that we should look into this problem. How can we build a self-sustainable city? So we went back to the drawing board. Let's forget about glass and steel. So we came up with the idea that to do this and to make it approachable, let's say maybe a glass processing plant, steel processing plant is not approachable because of the capital intensiveness of those projects. So let's do agriculture. Agriculture, you can approach it. So yes, agriculture is winning. We'll do agriculture. What in agriculture? We can do rice, we can do cassava. Consensus of about 7 intelligent young Nigerians. Okay, I went back to my mentor. We've decided that agriculture, we can build value around the agriculture, and then we can empower ourselves from there. So he said, okay, fine. How? I went back. The question of how. So if we are going to do rice and cassava, where do we do it? And how? So I had to now make research. I discovered that in Anya Melum, they have a very good land for rice. I know they also do that in Abakaliki, but it's not in Anambra State. So I went to Anya Melum. I went to the community. We went to Anya Melum, that's Anako, the community Anako. That's where we went. First time, nobody, just based on research. This is what the research is showing. This is what we should do. So I do it. So I and my friends went there. We definitely want to find people you can trust. This is an unknown space. You don't know anybody. You want to know something. So we asked questions. From there, we were able to narrow down to an Onowu who had a good reputation. And then fortunately, he was old, but he had a son that is younger and has over 25 years in the space doing rice farming. So it was fantastic. So the young man, he gave us an estimate what it would take to cultivate 1 hectare, the different steps beginning to end, and what we should expect. So with ₦1 million or 1.2 million for 1 hectare, we are supposed to be anticipating either 2.4 million or thereabout, or times 4 of that investment. Fantastic. So when I went back to my mentor, it now became clear that he has just been leading me, so that he shows me. He does not just give me the food, he shows me how it is done. So I had what I needed. I have an idea. I now know where and how to achieve that idea and who to work with. Money. How do I raise 1.2 million naira? Young graduates, NYSC, parents have done what they could. How do I raise 1.2 million? Okay, fine, we must do it. The process was such that it's broken down in steps. You rent the land, you prepare the land, you plant the rice, you fertilize the rice, you wait for 6 months, with other weeding and all those stuff, you harvest the rice, you can sell it or you can process it and package it and sell it. So we were going for processing it, not pack processing. We just sell I think paddy rice is what they call it, or the unprocessed rice. Just you sell off, they buy it, those that process it, they go and process it. So now I needed 20,000 naira to rent the land. No 20,000 naira to be found anywhere. So fortunately, I was able to borrow 20,000 from a friend and invest in that rice. So it's a total project of 1.2 million. So the first thing was just 20,000. So we got 20,000, we invested, we followed the process at every stage. Since the money didn't come once, didn't need to come once. So I was working, putting the money, going. At the end of 6 months, towards I think September, October, it was about time for harvest. Then all of a sudden I got a call that there was flood and then there was no more rice. Interesting. Flood. But I thought you had 25 years experience. How come? Well, usually flood does not always come, so but it comes sometimes. So unfortunately, it's now that it came. Good. Let's do it again. Next year, we approach 1 hectare again. 1.2 million needs to be raised. I've already incurred the losses, no problem. So remember, as at the beginning, I couldn't even afford the rent, but one way or the other, because I'm working as an entrepreneur, we're able to foot these bills. We lost the money, we start again. So now, what's the plan? Let's stay away from flood. Can we find a land that is upland that even if flood comes, we are free? Yes, we can. We found it. We made the investment. At the end of that year, it didn't do so well, but we recovered at least half of our investment. Oh, that's progress from losing everything to recovering at least half. We're not talking about profit. Wow, let's invest again. Third year, invested. So this all starts from 2016. So so fine, we invested again. Now, what is our new strategy? We've invested in top land. There is no enough nutrients per se in top land. Rice needs wet environment. Let's do that again. So what do we do differently this time? This time around, let's invest in such a way that the 6 months for the investment or planting and harvesting can happen and finish before the flood comes. And so we planned it such that before September, we should be out of that place with our investment and our harvest. Let's do that. So we did that. I just came to the farm just this week, right? Saw the rice was awesome. It was doing fantastic well. I just went back home, want to come back for harvest. Flood has carried it again. But we planned ahead. Fine, not to bore you with long story. So that was the end of my. So as at that last time, it was about 3 million naira because I had invested in 4 hectares. Since I want to get it right, well, Anak is a very nice environment, a very large land. I saw so much potential. So, but let's kill it. It didn't work out, and I didn't have the time. I'm not directly involved. There's some distance, so let's close that chapter. What to do? How do we build this city? Fine. Somebody told me about rice fish farm. I looked at it. It was adding up. Then there was some possibility, potential in the space. Unfortunately, I also found someone who had a very big farm that could also guide me to doing it. So as at this time, I was living in my village, in my hometown, because since my work was remote as an artist, I didn't need to be in town, right? So I moved to the village, cut down costs, save more money so that I can invest. So I was now in my village. So to do a fish farm, I needed a borehole. So I had to look for money, do a borehole. Finally, I had my first 800,000 to invest in a fish farm. 800,000 fish farm started. I'm running it personally. I'm seeing everything, doing it myself. There is no body to do it. So I'm doing that while working. So we make this thing happen. So I'm doing it. 6 months down the line, October, we made our first harvest. Fantastic. About 1,000 big fish sold immediately. The buyer just came. Fish is gone. Money is in the account. Fantastic. Fantastic for an entrepreneur like myself. Wow. As at that time, my budget was 3,000 fish in a month. So we just did the first, we spaced it out. So it's not like I brought the entire 3,000 at the same time. So we spaced it out. So when I sold the first 1,000, we had 2,000 coming up. I said, let's work for 9,000 fish. So over the space of 2 years, we're able to move that farm, the capacity from 3,000 fish to 9,000 to 15 and 20,000 fish per month. Because the plan was that you bring in 9,000 fish or 20,000 fish or 15,000 fish, as I decided to scale it at different points based on what I was seeing in the business. that we scale it from 3,000 to 20,000 capacity per month, such that every month you are bringing in 20,000 fish, you are selling out 20,000 fish every month, and such that it's not just every month. That 20,000, break it down per week, so that every week you have a reasonable quantity to sell, and you can pay your staff and still make profit. Fantastic. So I actually achieved this within 2 years or so, 1 or 2 years. I achieved this from 2022 to 2024. That was achieved. So I had a farm that can actually take 30,000, but it was 20,000 that we could afford. So, but in the process of doing the business, there are challenges. Yes, there are challenges. So, but one of the major challenge was that the cost of feed was too high. See, in 2022 when I started the business, I bought a bag of feed for 12,500 naira. As at 2024, that same bag of feed, or till today, that same bag of feed is 33,500 naira. Mind you that I've also scaled the farm from 3,000 capacity to 20,000 capacity within the same period. So not only that the investment I needed to make was significant, it needed to be more significant. So over that space, I invested over 100 million in the farm. Now, what is interesting is that in this space, I had to, within this period, I had to cut down the cost of feed, because every month I was spending over 3 million just on feed alone, to buy feed. So to cut down the cost of feed, my manager fortunately knew how to, he knew the formula on how to produce feed. So wow, fantastic, let's invest in feed production. So to do that, we needed to raise about 8 million to buy the machines, the extruding machine, the pulverizer, grinding machine, mixer, dryer, oiling and sieving machine. So I had to raise the money for this. Why? So that we reduce our cost from 3 million naira or there to 3 to 4 million. Sometimes it's crazy per month. Let's bring it down. So now, as at the time when we started that effort, a bag of feed was a bag of feed rose from that 12,500 to about 24,000 at some point. So as at that point when it was 24,000, we could make our own feed for 13,500 naira. Since we have the machines and we could source the raw materials. So you can imagine the gap between 24,000 and 13,500. So to the point when it became 33,500, our cost of raw material now rose from that 13,500 to about 19,000 per bag. You can imagine the distance, 33,000, 28,000 to 19,000 something per bag. Fantastic. So we achieved the feed production. At the same time, we incurred so much cost for energy, because we were spending, at a certain point I was spending about 700 to 500,000 per month to power the diesel generator and the fuel generator, because we have 3 generators as at that time, 2 to pump water in the farm, one big gen, or the, what do you call it again, the lister, to power the processing plant to produce feed, floating feed. So I needed to also cut down the cost for energy from 700,000 thereabout to the barest minimum. So the solution, one interesting thing that came around that time was biogas. What? I saw on Facebook that you can power your generator with biogas. What? And it would just cost me 1.2 million. Come, let's do it. So I got this pastor from somewhere, I can't remember the state, Auchi or so, to come and build the plant for me. He came in, built the plant, said I'll wait 3 days and he'll start working. He left. 3 days, I'm getting a gas that can burn but cannot power anything. He connected the whole pipes to the gen. The gas is there, he cannot power the gen. Call him, stories, stop picking calls, stories, over. What do I have to do? 1.2 million is on the line. So I had to make it work. I did the research myself. I went online, did the study, found all the principles, how it is happening, how the bacteria converts the animal waste to this gas, I've forgotten the name, to the biogas that you can burn. I I removed, because he buried some tanks in the ground, so I removed those tanks. I now had them on the surface, because actually if the sunlight hits them, it increases the process. It can burn, it can, whatever can happen faster, you get more gas. So I left them on the surface, did the connection, then now added a filter so that we get a purer gas. I had these three chambers that, so you get the gas, have the gas bags there well loaded. I now had a cleaner burning gas, because at least it could burn. But if you put it to your cooking, to your cooker, it will not burn because it didn't have pressure. So even though if you light it, you see it burn. If you connect it to your gas or to your cooker, it will not burn because no pressure. Talk more of generator. I connected it. No, it's not pushing the generator. I brought in my gas bottle. Put the gas bottle can power the generator. Say what? So I now saw that the problem is to pressurize the gas. How do you pressurize this gas? I went online, started looking for all these other guys claiming biogas. Can you pressurize the gas? Did you do just asking me questions and needing answers, but I'm not able to answer simple questions. Can you pressurize the biogas? I can make the biogas. Can you pressurize it? Stories. Anyway, I got to see that you need this. There's this thing that vulcanizers use to pump tire. I've forgotten the name of that machine. So I got that machine from Jumia, about 87,000. I got the machine. I connected my biogas to it to pressurize it and store in a bottle so I can now use, but it didn't work. So that was the end of the project. But I saw on BBC sometime that some other person in Kenya or so was actually using biogas to power their stuff, but unfortunately he knows something I could not find out. I tried to look, but I could not find. So that's my attempt to reduce cost of energy. It cost me 1.2 million, no success. Fine. Behold, there is solar. So we removed all our boreholes, cost about 3 to 5 million, I can't remember. Converted the 3 boreholes from solar, some from power, the normal sumo to solar sumos, panels, everything working perfectly. Cut down cost of heat production, cut down cost of energy. Also, I had already, Nigeria, we try to cut costs as businessmen. I had already done 2 boreholes for 600k each that failed. That failed because I was trying to cut costs. Got somebody that knows how to cut costs and do all the wrong things. Cost me time, cost me money. Nothing you can do about it. So, but that's just, that one is there. So, fine. We've cut down the cost of energy, cut down the cost of heat production. The other challenges that businesses have, still solving them. So till today, the farm is still trying to become itself, become a profitable venture. But I'm saying all this to say that, remember I said that as a young man in Nigeria, I do not have a future because there is no support. Even I'm able to access credit from the bank. I've just finished a loan that I'm now taking another to pay again. But to get that loan, I needed to provide land or a car or a shop somewhere. The average Nigerian does not have land or car or shop. They do not. So fundamentally, if you have an idea that can work, you do not have the support that you need. Mind you, outside your idea, you have to figure out it as you implement. So Nigeria is not designed to enable you succeed, guaranteed. So those of us that are willing to do all we can as far as we are alive, it's very difficult, but we are doing it. But I had to say this so that you know that this is not coming from a lack of competence or lack of effort or lack of initiative. But fundamentally, there is no support for the average Nigerian. I am one. Mind you, between 2016 till today, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me say 5 friends, good guys, competent guys, engineers, that's civil engineers, 2 of them, electrical engineer, 1, med lab scientist, a brother, some other guys. These guys moved themselves to Germany and UK because it is clear that if they stayed here like me that believe in the country, there is no future for them. So they had to do something, and it was so painful because these are competent guys that can add value to the society, but they had to go. So fine, my friends, that's proof. Assuming maybe I'm just stupid or dumb or do not have common sense, right? My friends are still proof that there is no support. So now, even as a businessman that need light, see, I do not need to produce my own light, but that's what I have to do for now. So I'm just saying that to say that in this space for infrastructure that can support a young Nigerian to grow, that the infrastructure is not there. And then what is more is that there is nothing I as an individual can really do about it for the larger, for every one of us. I can try something like I've explained for myself, but it cannot be for 100 people. It needs more resources than not only an individual can afford. So it needs another level of power, which you can say state power, government. This is something that they can do. So if I as an individual could attempt biogas, I didn't need to be attempting biogas because that should have been something that professors in the university or masters or PhD students can research. How do you, even if you get the gas, how can you solve the problem of pressurizing that gas? This is something that a master's or PhD student can invest their project in, get that solution. That's a solution that should be viable for us to use to create jobs for our children. So, but I had to try because that was still an opportunity. I mean, I had the opportunity of producing feed, so I could also commercialize it. So my idea for the city became even more real with this venture. Still working on it, not yet there, not yet possible. Still working on it. So, in terms of credit, we know there is no credit for you or I, except you have your father's land somewhere. You use that one. If you don't have it, well, now there are other aspects for support that I will discuss further on another video. But for now, I am a real Nigerian. I'm a human being like you. I do not have the support I need to build the future of my dreams in this country. But I have a voice and I will use it. Thank you.